to Lucknow meetup. Today with us we have Jitendra Bafna as our speaker. So first of all, I would like to thank Jitendra Bafna to taking out time from his busy schedule and accept our invite to present in our meetup. So he will be guiding us with two different topics. One will be MuleSoft Runtime 4.4 and another one will be API-led connectivity design and pattern. So the organizer for this meetup are Akib, Rituja, and myself. So Akib, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Abhishek. So this is Akib Javed. So I have total experience of 7 years, out of which 3 years are in MuleSoft. So currently I'm working with Cognizant as a senior associate. So and I'm looking forward to hear the new interesting topic that Jackie sir will be giving us on this very new refreshing topic on Mule Runtime 4.4 and the API-led connectivity pattern. Thanks, Jackie sir. And over to you, Ratuja.
Hey, don't call me sir.
So we are used to call you Jackie sir.
No problem. No. Thank you.
Yeah, Rituja, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Abhishek. So I'm Rituja Gupta. I have a total 3+ years of experience working in IT industry, and out of which 2.5 years of experience in this MuleSoft. I have worked in different domains like retails and life sciences. And I'm really grateful to have you here, Jackie sir, to this meetup. And thank you so much for taking your time, and it's a really great opportunity to have you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Rituja. So hello everyone, hi, this is Abhishek. So I'm working as an associate solution architect in Apicero. I have overall of 6+ years of experience, which take 4+ years in MuleSoft. I'm a MuleSoft mentor. I have been certified developer and architect. I write blogs, and I am a meetup leader for Guwahati and Lucknow meetup. So, Jackie sir, all's to you. So we don't need an introduction for you.
Yeah.
Everyone knows you, but still, yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I have like 14 years of experience in APIs and integration technology, and I am a MuleSoft ambassador and Surat and Nasik MuleSoft meetup leader. And I'm going to start one more meetup group that is for engineering student basically. And I have overall published around 300 plus YouTube videos and like 150 plus articles on the MuleSoft and AnyPoint platform. So my main expertise is like in setting up MuleSoft platform, which include hybrid implementation, cloud up, customer hosted Mule runtime, and runtime fabric manager. Basically, also I have expertise in integration using API-led connectivity and event-driven architecture, and like I have expertise in various application integration. And also apart from that, I also do some kind of pre-sales and consulting work where I define the roadmap, where how we can like move the customer from legacy to a digital basically. Yeah, that is all about me. Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie. So before we start, I would read the safe harbor statement. So both the speaker and the hosts are organizing this meetup in the individual capacity only. We are not representing our companies here. This presentation is strictly for learning purpose only. Organizer or presenter do not hold any responsibility that same solution will work for your business requirements. This presentation is not meant for any promotional activities. Next, some housekeeping. So this recording will be uploaded in the event page and will be shared to all of you within 24 hours. You can ask your question either in the chat, or you can unmute and you can ask your question. So feel free to ask whatever question you want. And at the end, once this meetup is over, you will get a mail with the feedback form. So please fill up the form, because that is very important for both the organizer and speaker. Also, you can put your suggestion like what next topic you want. So please give your feedback. So now, I'll give the control to you, Jackie. Would you like to answer? Yeah, we can see your screen. You're on mute, sir, if you're talking.
Okay. So yeah. So, guys, agendas for today's meetup, we will going to discuss what are the new features has been added as a part of Mule Runtime 4.4. We will see also like what is async API. So that is the recently introduced features by the MuleSoft, and we will also see what is a transit gateway. Then we will going to see various API-led connectivity design and patterns, and finally there will be wrap up and networking basically. Okay, so let me first start with Mule Runtime 4.4. So MuleSoft has recently introduced Mule Runtime 4.4. Like with Mule 4.4, they have introduced or they have enabled various features. One is MDC logging, and other is correlation ID management. So MDC means like map diagnostic context login. So basically with MDC logging, you can enrich your logs basically. So whenever you are logging any data into your into any third party system or into any file, right? So you can add some extra parameter with that, so you can search the log easily basically. So basically you are enriching your log. So let's consider I want to group a log using some unique ID, like account ID. Basically I'm getting some account or unique ID in request, and I want to group all the log using or I want to search the log using that particular ID, all the log using that ID, right? So you can make use of MDC logging to log the log, to log the log on basis of any unique ID or something like that. So map diagnostic context enrich the logs by providing more information about the event in the logs. And by default, if you know, MuleSoft logs only two things: a processor which shows the location of the current event, and the event which shows the correlation ID of the event. So generally, if you see by default, if you are using the logger component and you are trying to log using any logger component, it will just log two entries, or it will log two things: processor and the events. The processor shows the location of the event, and the event which will show the correlation ID of the event basically. I will show that. Okay, so MuleSoft has added a module called Mule Tracing module, which enables you to add the more information to logs basically. So apart from these two things, you can add more details into your log by using set variable. We have a something called add variable, removing variable, and clearing variable. I will going to show this example. So by default, this MDC logging or this tracing module is not part of your Anypoint platform. You have to install from Anypoint Exchange basically. So let me show that. So if you go here, so you have a tracing. So in tracing, basically you can clear the logs, you can remove the log, and you can set the logging variable. So let me show you. So I will create one small application. So let me show that Mule logging application. Okay. Here I'm just drag and drop HTTP listener, and I will use port number 8084, and I will say test. And also I want to use some logger component, which will just say start transaction. Then I will use one more logger component, which will say payload. One more at start. So I am reading the query parameters here: attributes dot query params dot. I'll put some ID. Okay. So I have a three logger in my, I will get some HTTP request which having the three loggers. So one is logging the query parameter. One is logging just start transaction. I can put start transaction at the start, then query parameter, then finally it will log the payload. So these are the three information get logged into your logging file or into your console or whatever. So let me save this application and let me export this. I will export to my desktop. Okay, so let me copy this file, and I have a Mule runtime installed on my laptop. So let me deploy this application to Mule. So it is deploying. So my application got deployed, and let me open the Postman. Okay. So instead of 8081, I will use 8084. Let me check what is the body. Yeah, I just send this request and I will send the request. I got the successful response. And let me check what other things has been logged in the log files. So I will go to logs and I will search Mule logging app. So it should log 3 events. So first it will say start transactions, null. Okay, I haven't sent any query parameter. That's why it logged the null. So let me send the query parameter ID 1234. Let me close this again, file. Let me send it. So I send this. Let me check what has been logged now. Yeah. So it start transaction. Okay. Then if you see 1234 and then it has logged the payload. So these are the three things has been logged, which is correct. Then also it logged the processor, which is the location of your current event, and it logged the correlation ID of the event. So you can see this correlation ID, but everybody doesn't know the correlation ID, right? So you will never know what is the correlation ID for that particular message, right? And if you want to search the log, right, like on the basis of ID which you are sending as a query parameter, right? How can you do that? Like, so in that case, you can enrich your log. You can you can send more variable instead of this two thing. You can set a more variable. How can we do that? The first thing what you have to do, you have to go to log4j2.xml. Okay, so first thing you have to go to log4j2.xml, and then then I think you have to remove this. Okay, and you can simply write percentage. You can remove this and you can write percentage mdc. Okay, so that's the thing. I think it's capital letter, percentage mdc. You have to write it's capital or small. Let me check. I think it's the capital letter only. So I have other example here. Yeah, it's capital, right? So it's a capital letter. So you have to go to your log4j2. Okay, in log4j2 you have to check this pattern layout, and you have to change this to mdc, which is map diagnostic context. Now I will just export this application again. I will save it. I will export it. No, I don't. Just a minute. Up before that, you have to set the variable also. So you can say set logging variable. Okay, so you have, before the logger, you have to set the variable. Okay, and I will give the variable name as id, or simply I can say id, and here I can say attributes dot query parents dot id. Okay, so these are the things you need to do, and just save it, export it. Next, I can export to desktop. Yes. Okay, let me copy this application, paste it, control X, sorry. So let me check if application deployed. Yeah, application has been successfully deployed. Let me send the request again. I have sent the request. Let me check the logs. So if you see, this time it has also logged the ID, which we are setting into our mule flow, right? So now if you want to search your logs on the basis of ID, you can simply say, something like ID is equals to 1234. So not this, just a minute. You can simply say 1234. So you get that, right? So generally you can search the log on the basis of your ID, and it will group in one group, in one sequence. Basically, you can see that, right? So that is the advantage, of using the mdc logging. Basically, it will definitely put the correlation id, as well as it will also put the location of your event, and it will add the extra path, extra thing, that is the id which we have set. Same way you can set up the multiple variables also. Let me do one thing. I will set one more variable, set logging variable. I will simply just say test 1234, whatever. I can do like this, export. Okay, let me send the request. It doesn't take time for deployment. Send it, and let me check the logs. Mule login application. So you can see it add the test also, and it should have a ID also. So both parameter or both the variable has been added to your log. So that's how you can like enrich your log. Any question, anything on this before I move to next topic? Any question on MDC logging?
Jackie, we have one question from Vijay.
Yeah, Vijay. From where set logging variable is coming? Are we adding the component? So generally, like Vijay, it's a part of your AnyPoint exchange. So simple, basically, you can go to your it's very simple. Try looking in exchange. You can do like that, and you can just say tracing. You can search like this. So I want okay. So once you will search, for me, like let me log in first. So you can search it here, and you will get that component. You can add it into your Mule palette. Okay, you got it, Vijay? Okay. Yeah, just it depends. Like if you are transferring that ID throughout the layer, right? And you can definitely, if your ID like, let consider you also use up the variable like a header called X correlation ID. So you can pass that X correlation ID from your experience API to your process API, from process API system API, and you can log that X correlation ID into the logs, right? And that is how you can search. Similarly, like you can send that ID to all the layers basically. If that ID is going to all the layer, you can definitely you can definitely log that. You can set that variable into your flow and you can log it. Like got it? So you have to make sure you are just passing that ID to all the layers of your API, and you are setting that like logging variable at the start of your flow. Yeah, you can definitely add whatever. Like you can add any attribute. You can add header. You can add any custom value. You can add anything. Like it support all kind of expression. Okay, I will move ahead because we have a lot of topics to cover. Okay, then I will come to correlation ID management. So if you see take this example again. So in this example, MuleSoft automatically generate a correlation ID, right? So by default, MuleSoft automatically generate a correlation ID, right? But there might be possibility like some of the system doesn't cannot like add up this particular correlation ID because they have some restriction on their system. So they may like there can be a length restriction. They might be supporting some format kind of correlation ID, right? In that case, this correlation ID will not work. So with MuleSoft 4.4, MuleSoft has introduced a correlation ID generator. So basically, you can generate your own correlation ID, like whatever format you want, up to how much length you want. You can definitely generate using like AnyPoint platform. AnyPoint Studio. I will show that. Let me start my presentation before that. So basically, when Mule create a new event, it generate generally that is the UUID, Java Universally Unique Identifier String. That is known as a correlation ID, and that is auto generated. We don't have any control on that, right? With Mule 4.4, you have an option where you can generate your own correlation ID basically, and whatever format you want, you can generate it. So generally, why we want to generate our own correlation ID? Your company has its own standard of format for correlation ID, right? You may encounter the requirement where like you just want the correlation ID of 6 or 7 length, right? But if you show UUID which is of 16 or 18 length, something like that, right? In that case, that particular logic will not work, right? So you have to generate your own correlation ID. Your external system correlation ID are different length than those in Mule, and causing the incompatibility that makes them untraceable. So that's the reason we require to generate a correlation ID. How can we do that? So generally, by default, if you see, so basically you have to ensure that Mule 4.4 is installed on your AnyPoint Studio. So for that, I think you can go to this install new software, and simply like you can go to Mule. It will list down all. For me, 4.4 is already installed. That's why it's not showing. You simply have to just like select the 4.4 and you just say finish. It will install that. Okay. So in my case, I will search for configuration component. So if you see, you can generate your own correlation ID basically. In previous version, you just in configuration you can only see a default error handler and HA profile. With Mule 4.4, you can see this also. So let me generate a correlation ID now. So I'm taking just date as string, and I can say format YYY hours minute second. So this is the correlation ID I want. I will simply say OK. So that is only one thing you need to do. So simply you can just whatever format you can require, you can define the expression here, simple, and just save this application. I will just export it. Next, finish. Okay. It's deployed, I think. Send it. We got successful response. Let me go to logs, and I will go to Mule logging application, and let me check whether the, so here you can see the correlation ID is not UUID. Instead of that, whatever expression we have defined, so the correlation ID has been generated in that particular format. You can see that here, right? Right? Yeah. So, like any question coming?
No question till now.
Okay, so now there's a other requirement. Let's consider. So basically, you might have a requirement like you are sending the request to two different destination, and both the destinations support a different correlation ID, right? In that case, what you will do? So we have something called with correlation ID. So let me use with correlation ID. So basically, what you can do, so whatever you can have a separate correlation ID. Whatever events you will define under this particular with correlation ID, that will have a correlation ID which has been defined with this particular with correlation ID. The event or processor which you will put in this particular scope, so that have a correlation ID which has been defined or which has been formatted with this correlation ID. So let me show that. So I'll put some loggers here. Okay, and I'll put some loggers here. I'll put end transactions. So here we will put some expression. So we have to put some expression. So let me open this. I will say scope. Let me put scope 1. Then I can say plus plus. Now as string format YYYMMDDR minute second. Okay, this is done. I can define for that also. Only I will change. This is for scope 2. So what will happen to the outer thing? So for inner, it will generate the correlation ID using this expression or whatever. Like what will happen to this? I will put one logger here also, and I will put one logger here also. So let me show that. Start of scope. Here I will say end of scope. So this will either generated for this particular logger component. It will either generated automatically, okay, or whatever configuration we have defined in this configuration component with a correlation ID generated. For this inner, whatever we put under this with correlation ID scope, it will generate like correlation ID on the expression which we have defined. And for this also, it will generate the correlation ID for expression which we have defined. Okay, so let me show this demo. Let me check if it's deployed. Send it. Okay. So let's go and check the logs. So let's see. So for startup scope, it take the correlation ID from the like configuration, right? Configuration component. You can see that. For like an inner two component, it took like from the first correlation ID scope, and the for other logger it took from the second correlation ID scope, and again there is a outer logger, right, which is outside the scope. It also took from the configuration component basically, right? So that is how you can make use of your correlation ID. You can group the events, for that particular correlation ID. This is the way you can do that. Any question on this?
No question I see till now.
It's clear, right? So what we have to do with correlation ID basically. Okay, so let me move to a data wave. So like so these are the two new features. So like we have already done the demonstration. So with the with Mule 4.4, MuleSoft has also done the improvement in data wave. So that is known as data wave 2.4. Basically they have introduced a new functions, which is index of, last index of, on, null, then. It also introduced core annotations, and like it also introduced a utility, a module called DW core dates. It has also added a new functions or new operator in DW core strings, and it also come up with a DW util coercions. We will see some example with coercion. So basically previously if you want to convert a number into a string, we are using as string or as number or as boolean or as date time or as local date time, right? So those kind of like typecasting we use. Now MuleSoft has introduced a coercions, like you can do the typecasting like similar to Java. In Java you are using to string or to boolean or something like that. So same thing we can use here also in MuleSoft. Then it also introduced some function or some data web module, which is DW methods. It also come up with a good feature called DW period. So we will going to see the example on DW period. So tree, it introduced a new functions or new operator with tree, and it also introduced some new operator with the DW values. So let me show you some things. So first we will see coercions. So let me go to DW lang. Okay, so what I will say, import start from DW util coefficients. So let me do that. So if I want to convert to binary, so string to binary. So you have simple functions, basically to binary. Here you have to pass any string. So I will just pass DW, and you have to pass the like encoding basically. I will say UTF-16. Right, so it has been converted into a binary format. So let me also convert a string to number. Basically I can say to number. You can see your string has been converted from to number. Basically same thing you can do, number to string. So this has been introduced recently. Previously you are doing like let's consider like if I want to convert a string, so we are doing one as string, something like that, right? But they have come up with similar functions like Java to string, where I can pass number, right? Apart from that also, like I can say string to array. So basically I want to convert to array, so I have some, so this will be converted into array. So these are some very useful functions which has been introduced as a part of DW util coercions. Basically we will see some operator related to core periods. Okay, basically I want to calculate between time, right? Between like difference between two times, between time, right? So I can use the function called between. where I can provide two dates. So basically 2021 08/19 08/19, and you have to provide a second date 2021 10/19. So it will give period, like it's a difference of 2 months. Basically it's saying it's a difference of 2 months. So apart from that, like if you want to like add days, okay, or add days basically into your date, right? So you can simply say now. So now is the today date plus days, how many days you want to add. So I want to add 1 day, so it become 21. So I want to add 10 days, so you can add the 10 days. Same thing, like you can add months. So I want to add now, then plus months, so you can say 1 month. So it will add 1 month basically, okay. So like that. Okay. Also there is a one important function, duration. You can add hours, minutes, and like hours, minutes with your date. So now basically you can say plus. So duration is the operator. Under that I can say months, not months, you can say days. It will add 1 days. So if you want to add hours, so it will add 1 day and 1 hour. So it should be hours basically. Then also you can add minutes. It will add 1 day, 1 hour, and 1 minute basically into your now date. So these are the some functions. An operator comes with a period basically, a period period module basically, okay. So now like we have seen quotients, we have seen like periods, okay. I will show you like some functions related to strings, right? So I want to use the collapse function. So collapse is basically collapse your string into a substring basically, collapse strings. So basically I have a collapse operator. So I have something like this, right? So let me, okay. It is collapsing, like whenever it will see the change of word. So from E to W, so there is a change of word. From W to E there is a like change of word. From E to E there is a no change of word. So you can see that like then E. So same thing if you put spaces and then you also put, so it will add the spaces also. So collapse is nothing, collapse string into the your substring or array of substring basically. That's a like use of collapse. So previously there is a no substring function, like Java we have a substring function, right? So substring string basically. So like I will say substring, and I can say hello, and I want to read 1 to 2 character first to like so it will say like from 1 to 2 it say hello basically, it will give a E only. So I'm just reading one character basically, right? So that is the starting character and that is the end character. From where I need to start, I need to start from 1 then 2. Okay, so that's how we can make a huge of like so it will give EL like that. Okay, so these are the new operator has been introduced. Any question on this? So you can just these are very useful operator has been introduced. So before I move into API led connectivity, any question on like this MDC logging or correlation ID or data wave?
Guys, if anyone have any question, please you can ask now. Either you can unmute yourself or you can put it over chat. I don't think any questions, Jackie.
Okay. So guys, I've like let make session bit interactive. So guys, what is API led connectivity? Can anybody answer this question? What is API led connectivity? Anyone? No?
Yes, please answer. It's a great opportunity. Jitendra is here. You can talk to him. You can if you have any doubt, you can clarify. Please feel free to talk.
We
Yeah,
will
in
definitely.
the
Yeah, go on.
in the world of digitization, everything is going to be built as APIs. So API-led connectivity is a concept introduced by MuleSoft where you differentiate APIs as system APIs, process APIs, and experience APIs, segregate into 3 separate layers, and connect them in the order that's required. So whenever there is change in a system, you just have to touch one API, and rest all flow remains intact.
Okay. Yeah. You are right. Yeah. So thanks, Charan. Okay. So basically, API-led connectivity is nothing. It's an architecture style. It's a 3-layered architecture style. So where we have a 3 kind of API: system API, process API, and the experience API. So first we will talk about the system API. What is the system API basically? So basically, system API is basically used to fetch a raw data, fetch a raw data from the backend systems basically, or from the systems of record like JDBC. It can be Salesforce, or it can be AS400, or it can be any backend systems, right? So basically, you are unlocking your data basically from your, yeah, it can be any legacy system, or it can be any backend system basically. Okay, so basically whenever you fetch the data like from your backend system, the system API will expose those APIs or those data to the upstream API in the secure and the reliable way basically, right? So generally system API will be consumed by a process API, or in some cases experience API may directly consume your system API. That is also possibility. So there are various ways you can implement your API-led connectivity architecture. So let's understand what are the different responsibility of your system API. So one of the thing, system API is basically responsible for connecting your backend system and fetching the raw data, right? Then apart from that, like system API also performs some kind of transformation, like whatever raw data or whatever unstructured data or maybe structured data you are facing from a backend system, right? It will do the transformation of that. It also cleans a raw data basically. So there might be some unrequired data coming from the backend. So system API can also like capable of cleaning those data basically. Then it exposing the data to upstream API, which can be a process or experience API, and in much secure way and the reliable way basically. It also perform like we have to do some kind of error handling, and we need to like ensure that mapping, we do the proper mapping of the error code which are coming from backend at a system API basically. Okay, so this is what is the responsibility of the system API. Okay, so before like you designing the system API, there might be some questions that you need to ask to your customer. So like what is the core functionality of your backend system? Like, so why you are going to design a system API? What is the reason? How many system API you need to design? Do we require system API, or like do any kind of system API already exist that you need to check it? You need to do the discovery whether the system API is already exist. In that case, you have to reuse that. If system API is not exist, in that case you have to recreate it basically. Okay, you also have to ensure that what kind of traffic control, what kind of security policy you need to ensure at a system API. Like you also have to ensure that like how you can secure your system API, whether I need to deploy a system API in VPC or whether I need to give the system API access publicly. You should not like you need to ensure that your system API doesn't access publicly basically. If you are deploying a system API, you need to deploy a system API within your private VPC basically, so it cannot be accessible publicly basically. Okay, so also like do we need a wrapper around existing system API that is written in non-MuleSoft? So there might be possibility like you may have a system API already written in the Spring Boot, right? Or maybe in some non-MuleSoft technology. So you need to think, like you need to discuss with your customer, either I need to create a wrapper on the top of your existing system API, or either I need to create a new system API basically, right? Any question? Before like below list things of needs to be taken care while designing the system API. I mentioned system API generally not exposed publicly. It should be deployed within the private network or private port. System API can be deployed on the private port within the Anypoint VPC basically. So once you deploy your like API is within Anypoint VPC, right, on the private port, so it will be not accessible publicly basically. Also you have to ensure that if you are deploying your system API on your Mule runtime, customer hosted Mule runtime, so you have to deploy like you don't expose those system API publicly over the load balancer or any external load balancer basically. Okay, always provide an internal URL to upstream API to communicate with system API. So generally it was my recommendation, like you always, like if process API want to communicate with system API, it should communicate using internal URL. It should not communicate via any like it can communicate with internal load balancer, but it should not communicate via external load balancer basically. There must be one system API for one backend system. So if you have multiple backend system like Salesforce, you have a JDBC database like MS SQL, you have a AS400. In that case, you require a separate system API for AS400, separate system API for Salesforce, separate system API for JDBC basically. Okay, in case if you are following a domain driven architecture or domain driven design, there can be a multiple system API for one system. So you have a monolithic web services which has an operation related to multiple domain. In such cases, you can group the operation related to domain and create a multiple system API as per number of domain. So can anybody explain me what is a domain driven design basically? Why in some cases you have only one database, but for one that single database you can create a multiple system API. What does this mean? Can anybody explain me? Anyone?
Sure. Uh, uh, so in the same system, there can be different domain of information. For example, finance information, customer information, and sales information. So these are all different information present in the same system. So we would definitely need APIs to get all these data in a separate way.
Correct. You are right. You are absolutely right. So this is known as a microservices kind of architecture. So where you are breaking a system API in multiple system API depending on domain. So you have, let's consider you may have a database. That database may contain HR related details. So that is the one domain. That same database may contain payroll related information. Same database may contain finance related information. Right? That same database may contain a procurement relation information. In that case, you will create a 4 different system API basically. So that is nothing, that is a domain driven design. So and sometimes it is also known as a microservices, and I can call this as a fine grain microservices basically. Okay, so you may heard about the term called fine grain domain driven design basically. So domain driven design means you are breaking your single system API into multiple system API depending on your business capability basically. Okay, so generally on system API, there might be a backend system which is not capable of handling the large traffic or heavy traffic. In that case, it is recommended to guard that system API with spec control or rate limiting kind of policies basically. So this is all about the system API. Does anybody have any question on system API or domain driven design?
One,
Yeah.
so when you say
domain-driven design and when you say API connectivity, so we are further bifurcating the system APIs, right? So how it goes with the API-led connectivity pattern?
See, generally what we talk generally for one system, we create one system. So generally when you are creating an architecture on the basis of business capability, right? So you have a HR, so you are creating separate services for HR, like separate process API, separate system API, and the separate experience API for HR, right? And like if you are creating a separate architecture for finance related information, finance related business capability, right? So basically you are doing, you are creating the API on basis of business capability, not basis on systems basically, right? Akib, in that case, that architecture is known as the microservices with API led connectivity basically, right? Here you are also using the API led connectivity 3-layer architecture, but you are breaking your process system and experience API on the basis of domains basically, right? So here it is like it is combination of your API led connectivity and the microservices, right? You got it right?
yes, yes.
So simple example, Akib, you may have a system, right? So you have a Salesforce, or let's consider you have a JDBC database. Your organization have a JDBC database. That JDBC database is common across the organization, right? And which contain the information related to different domains basically. So in that case, you cannot create a one system API because the customer is looking for like architecture, like where you can create a service on the basis of your business capability, right? So like if like business capability, in that case you are breaking like that services on the basis of business capability, or on the basis of domain, right? So that is known as the microservices basically. On and even when you start like breaking your process API and experience API on the basis of domain, right? So you are just using the combination of microservices and API led architecture.
Yeah, using both the benefits, right?
Correct. Yeah. Because this is generally question comes in the interview.
Yeah, thanks. Sir.
Yeah. So now we will talk about the process API. So generally, what is a process API? So process API is something where we do the orchestration or choreography of the calls basically, or choreography of multiple API basically. So process API is responsible for orchestrating or choreographing a multiple downstream API. So basically, it collect the data from multiple API, it aggregate and it send the data to upstream API basically. The core functionality of process API is to implement a business logic like data aggregation, routing, orchestration, and choreography of the call basically. So generally, what is the functionality of Experience API? It exposing the data to upstream API in secure and reliable way. It is also responsible for handling business logic, routing, data aggregation. We have to also do the error handling, proper error handling and mapping of the error codes here. It also responsible for orchestration of the call to system API. So generally, it may call the multiple like system API basically, like to fetch the data from multiple system API and then aggregate it. It all like line of business is responsible for process API then generally. So it is also known as a layer of innovation and agility. So let me explain. So generally, it is recommended like if you have a like some kind of business logic you have to implement in the process API. If the business logic is very heavy, so I will recommend it you should not keep at a process API layer. You need to keep at a backend system, like if you are using the MySQL database or MS SQL database, and it has some complex business logic, like you have to retrieve the data from multiple table and you have to apply a lot of things, right? So I will recommend it to keep that logic in database store procedure or functions there only, or maybe in your backend system. But it doesn't mean like I'm like saying like you have to keep it there only. MuleSoft is capable of handling any complex business logic, and it provide all the components to handle such kind of complex business logic also. So that is my like recommendation, that is my experience, where like I generally keep, if there's a very complex logic, I generally keep outside the this API led connectivity. I keep generally outside the like API led connectivity architecture. So yeah, that is my recommendation. So it depend like it depends. So if you have some legacy system, then like those legacy system already have some complex business logic is written. So I will recommend it like don't bring that complex business logic to your process API. So simply like you can use the logic which is already there. You call the store procedure, you call the functions, whatever. So you keep it at a backend only. That is my recommendation. So below are the question you need to address for designing the process API. So what is the core functionality of the process API? What kind of orchestration or what kind of business logic we need to implement in the process API? Do we require a process API? Like if there's any small kind of transformation, you can do it experience API layer also. No need to like define a process layer basically. So you can simply call like if, as I mentioned, if you have all complex logic already written in backend service, in that case you don't require the process API also. That will be taken care at a system API. Like system API will call the backend store procedure and retrieve the data. That then you can directly call the experience API also. That is also possible. Does business logic already exist in the backend service? Do we need to implement the business logic in process layer? It is always good practice to have a most of the complex logic, business logic in the backend system if they are capable. In case if backend system are not able to handle the business logic, MuleSoft provide all the required component to implement any kind of business logic basically. Also, you need to check who will be the consumer of the process API. Most of the time, the process API will be consumed by multiple user experience API to promote the reusability. So what kind of security policy or what kind of security measures we need to take care at a process API basically. Okay. Also, we need to take care of below things while designing the process API. Generally, process API should not be exposed publicly. Generally, it is not recommended. Yeah, right, it should be deployed again similar to system API. It should be deployed within the private network or the private port. Maybe on cloud hub you can make use of VPC. In case of if you want to expose the process API to the consumer, you can create the proxy basically. Generally, like sometimes you don't want to create the experience API because like you have only one consumer, like, and you have only internal consumer. In that case, like you don't want to create an experience API, you can simply create a proxy on the top of like your process API, and you can expose that proxy basically, and the consumer can connect through that proxy. In this way, you can stop exposing the process API implementation directly. Always provide internal URL to upstream internal API to communicate with the process API. Okay, any question on process API?
Yeah, one quick question, Jackie. So whenever we can, communicate to customer, so they always want to skip this process API, right? They
Uh,
because depending on the course and the workers, everything.
mhm.
So how we suggest them to when to have a process API. For example, let's say you say ki there are some complex business logic that are happening,
Mhm.
that we should recommend. But
Mhm.
they every time they want to skip this process API thing. So
No,
any so,
so generally, like, see it now. Yes, this is the valid question. Like to save the course, right? So they generally skip process API generally, or sometimes they consider process API as an expense API also. So that is always happening, right, Akib? That is
yes,
what you are
yes,
asking, right?
Yes, yes.
See, generally it's simple. If you have some kind of business logic, right? So like if customer, like some kind of business logic, like you can tell the customer, like so if you have a business logic, you have to strictly implement in the process layer. Like if you want to do the orchestration of the call or choreography of the call, right? You have to do at a process layer only, right? Let's consider in future, like you need to add, like initially you are doing the orchestration of call for the three APIs, three system API. In, like the custom, like in future, like there are some changes happen in system API, and like so basically you need to do the changes at process layer also, correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
So like you have to do the changes at process layer also. Then in that case, if you are doing the changes at the experience layer, so it will impact the consumer also, right? If you are doing some changes on the experience layer, it will impact the consumer also, right, Akib?
Yes, yes.
Correct. So you can explain the customer like that. Definitely it will consume the vCourse, but at the same time, the one of the advantage, if it's a bigger organization, right? So in that case, the line of business, IT have a have a line of business. So line of business is responsible for creating the process API. You have a system API already ready, right? You have to just do some business logic. Strictly you have to write a business logic. You have to segregate your business logic from system API and the experience API. So that's the one reason. Second thing, whenever whenever the changes come, you generally perform at a system layer or the process layer. You should not touch the experience layer basically. If you are touching the experience layer, it will impact the consumer, right? It will take some downtime for the consumer to do the changes and all those things, right? So you can avoid all this kind of thing, like if you are not implementing the process layer, you will not going to achieve the reusability also. So let's consider, I will tell you one of the example. So if you are creating the process layer, right? And like if you are creating the process layer, you have a mobile API at an experience layer, you have a web API experience layer. So they both are in the same API, same process API. At a web API level, it is like it is reducing some field. At a mobile API level, it is reducing some field, right? So here you are achieving the reusability. You can see that, like in future, if third channel come, right? You don't have to create a process API again. You just have to, the third channel want just two fields from that process API, right? So you can call that process API from third channel, and you can at the third channel you can just filter out these two fields, right? So those kind of things, like you are achieving the reusability here.
yeah, but it is it is hard to
Yeah,
persuade
that
them.
yeah, that is difficult. It's very difficult. I've seen that like there are some customer who tell like we don't want this three layer also. But this is happens with the smaller customer, but it doesn't happen with the enterprise customer.
Yes, yes.
Because like at enterprise level, they got a good ROI, right? Return on investment. But when it comes to smaller customer, they thought like they have just two three systems, like what system API, what process API, and what
Yes,
expensive.
yeah.
If they have a 10-15 API, even it doesn't make sense for them to go with that architecture. If
Yes.
there are customer who have like 100 or 300 APIs, for them this architecture definitely worth. right?
Yeah. Thanks, again.
Jitendra. Hi,
Hello.
Jitendra. I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm Victor from Brazil, and my question is in the process API that we include data management within key, or rather include asynchronous systems in the process API, or in API system API?
Can you repeat, because your voice is not clear, right? Is this problem with me or it's problem with everyone?
No, it's not clear. Victor, can you repeat, please?
Yeah. Is it in process API that we include data management with MQ, data driven, or asynchronous systems, or a system API that includes?
So you mean to say like you want some kind of asynchronous processing, right? At a
Yeah,
process
right.
API, right? It is possible. If you see like e-commerce, a retailer, right? So they use the event handler in the process API layer basically, right? So basically from experience layer, so we are getting the request on the HTTP, right? Then experience layer plays that request or that message into queue, okay? And like from process API, that like the experience API will send a response back to the customer, like message has been received. Then later the process API will start processing that message from the queues basically, right? So we will have a queue listener at a process API layer. So it will process the message. Then once it done all kind of business logic, everything perform, done the orchestration of call, then it will send the data to the like it will interact with the system API also. So maybe like it will also interact with system API, maybe asynchronous or maybe synchronous communication. So that is possible. Like you can definitely introduce like asynchronous logic at a process layer also, and even you can do at a system layer. I have done this kind of architecture. So generally we are getting the experience like request on the experience API, which is synchronous. Later like system API and the process API is communicating via asynchronous like channels basically.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
So you just have to implement the event handler at a process layer, and the if you want to make your system like event handler basically, okay, so you can introduce the event handler there in the process layer.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah. Now come to experience API. So experience API is nothing, it's a user facing API, or we can call this as a presentation API. So it's similarly on web application, we have a presentation layer, we have a business layer, and we have a data access layer. So same thing, like experience API is the like API which is available for consumer basically, so they can directly consume, it can be reused by the different channel like mobile application, web application, or any other channel. So generally experience APIs are the channel specific. For example, mobile can consume mobile API, web application can consume web application API, any like analytics can consume analytics API basically. So generally we do error handling and mapping the errors from the process or system API. It can consume process or system API, perform data transformation according to need of consumer. Then it can expose the channel specific API basically. These are the core functionality of the experience API. So generally below question needs to be addressed for designing the right experience API. What will be the core functionality of the experience API? Does experience API have a multiple consumers? So do we require experience API? What security measures needs to be taken care of at the experience API? So generally, like at the experience API, we need to ensure that how we can avoid a denial of service or distributed denial of service attacks. So what kind of different security measures we need to taken care at experience API, because experience API are the public facing API basically. Okay, so generally below list of the things needs to be taken care at a experience API. Like experience API must not responsible for orchestration or routing or any business logic. Experience API must be enabled with a strong authentication like JWT validation policy, like OAuth 2.0, like those kind of thing. Experience API must have extra security to avoid denial of service, distributed denial of service, or any kind of API attack. Also, you can enable a web application firewall on the top of your experience API basically. So IP whitelisting or IP blacklisting. Okay, so those kind of things can be taken care at a experience API layer. I will explain some of the use cases. Before that, any question?
Jitendra, we have one question from Jasdeep. Like, yeah, is there any limitation on the size
Uh,
of data?
it depends, like if you like see, generally it's a real-time API by default. so there's a no limitation, but by default, when you are using the real-time API, the size should not be that much. Okay, otherwise it will increase, like it will increase the latency, and it will just, like it will just reduce your, like it will congest your network, basically. So generally, when you for real-time API, it is recommended you don't use too much, like too much size payload basically, or payload size must be in KB. That is fine. If you want to process 100 MB of payload, I will not recommend it to use this approach. Instead of that, you can use batch processing or some kind of thing basically. Okay, so there is a no limitation, but it's a real-time API. So for real-time, you have to ensure that you don't send a message of 100 MB or 200 MB. That is not recommended also. Okay. So let me explain few of the use cases. So it's a API-led connectivity is the architecture style. So it can be implemented in n number of ways basically. So let's consider I have received some requirement for client to implement the right API-led connectivity pattern. So we need to connect and fetch the data from various core backend system, including some legacy system, and unlocking the data from the backend system. There is a need of collect the data from the multiple system and aggregate the data to send it to the client. And there can be multiple consumer API, including web application, mobile application, and other external consumer. API must be secure at each layer. Client is looking to expose more API on the top of core system. Solution must be futuristic and promote reusability. So this is a requirement. The first requirement, they have they have some backend system. So we require system API. So like they also have to do some orchestration. They have to collect the data from various system, right? So various system, and they have to aggregate it. So that then we require the process layer also, and they have a various consumer like web application and mobile application, right? So this is the typical architecture will look like. So this is the MuleSoft system API. So that I have two systems, system 1 and system 2. It will connect that. Then like we have a process API. So that process API is doing some orchestration of the call. Then we have an experience API. One is for mobile application and one is for web application. So that is how you can implement. This is kind of greenfield project basically. Okay. So where like you can easily set up the 3-layer architecture basically. Okay. The second use case, we have received the list of requirement from client to implement the right API-led connectivity pattern. Client have API that already exists. So client have some API which is already exist basically that connect to system, but not written, but written in non-MuleSoft. So they have some system API which is written in non-MuleSoft. There is a need of collect the data from multiple systems and aggregate the data and send it to client. There can be multiple consumer API, including web application, mobile application, and other external consumer. API must be secure at each layer. And client is looking to expose more API on the top of core system, and solution must be futuristic and promote reusability. Backend systems are legacy and complex. So here what I can do, so I have a non-MuleSoft API already exists. So I will simply create a process layer and experience layer basically. So process layer will do the orchestration and aggregation of the data, and experience API like web application will call web experience API, mobile application will call mobile experience API. That is the solution one. That is the solution two. So basically you can create, you have a non-MuleSoft system API. So either what you can do, so because it has some logics already written in non-MuleSoft system API. So I will create a MuleSoft system API layer or wrapper on the top of non-MuleSoft system API. Then we have a process API, and then we have an experience API. Process API will do orchestration and choreography of the call, whereas experience API is the channel specific API, and it will be called by mobile or web application basically. The other solution can be, you can even remove this non-MuleSoft system API. That is the third solution, and you can directly build a new system API on the top of SYS1 and SYS2 basically. So these are the three approach you can use for this particular use case. So you can do some calculation which is the best approach and which is the cheaper one. You can do that calculation. As per me, this is the cheaper one for now, and this is the faster. This is more bit more, it's not cheaper than previous one. And you have a third approach also. I have a third use case. We have received the list of requirement for client to implement the right API-led connectivity pattern. So there can be multiple consumer API, including web application, mobile application, and other external consumer. API must be secure at each layer. Client looking to expose more API on the top of core systems. Solution must be futuristic and promote reusability. Backend systems are legacy and complex. All business logic is written in the backend system. and that is very complex and took year to build. Basically, it took years to build. There is a no requirement of orchestration of calls. So in that case, we don't require any process API. So we will have a system API. So like S1 and S2, we will have a web API and mobile API. So they like experience API, they can directly call your system API basically and do some kind of transformation at the experience API layer basically. Here we don't have any requirement of orchestrating the call, like all the business logic is written in the backend system. So we have to reuse that, like, you know. So in that case, I will not going to implement a process API. I can directly use system API and experience layer. Okay. We have received the list of requirement from client to implement the right API-led connectivity. There is only one channel consuming the API. Basically, API must be secure at each layer. Client to expose more API on the top of core system. Solution must be futuristic and promote reusability. We need to connect and fetch the data from various backend system. There is a need to collect the data from multiple system, aggregate the data and send it to them. So generally, what is the requirement? The important thing to point to notice, they have only one internal consumer, right? So what I have done, like, you know, so I have a system API, I have a process API. As an experience API, I create a proxy. So generally, it is recommended like process API and system API will be deployed on the private port. So what I can do, I can create a proxy on the top of this basically, and I can expose to that particular, you know, and I can secure that proxy with JWT validation or any strong authentication basically, right? So that's how, and that's how we can design this particular use case for. Okay, let me show one demonstration. So I have one web API, so that will call accounts API from the process API. So basically, accounts API is calling the various endpoint from this open banking API, and like, you know, and collecting data from this various, like, you know, and aggregating it, and then finally it is sent to this web API. Let me show that solution. So this is my system API. So like this is my system API which contain, like, you know, some logic. So let me show that. Host, I think it's on 8081 only. APIs, let's control V, slash accounts. Yeah, I put the API 2 times. That's a problem. Yeah. Let me check the port.
You missed an L in local.
Yeah. So this is my account details from my system API. I have a process API also. So let me check. So what process? So let me do that already. I have a system API which also give a balance details, right? And this also give a transaction details. So I have a multiple endpoints in my system API, right? So this give a transaction. At process API, what I get? Let me check. Right. So I have this particular. This is my process API. Yeah, I know this is 8082. Let me check. It's not PRC. I think it's process. Yeah, account ID I haven't passed. So here we got like accounts, balances, and transaction detail. So let me show the code. So it fetching the account detail, fetching the balance detail. It doing the orchestration of call, getting the data, and finally it aggregating the data here, and finally it send it to the it send the response back after aggregation. So that is the process API, and like I have some experience API also. So generally, like this is for web application. So what this experience API? In experience API, like I have a want to fetch account detail. I want to fetch balances detail. I want to fetch a transaction detail. So that also can be done. So if I use this, I think port number is 8083 here. We got like account details. If I want a balance detail, I can say balances detail, and this is the transaction details, right? So that is how you can design your process API, system API, and experience API. So these are the three different projects, and these are the three separate application. So here system, yeah, like it is connecting to backend system. Process API, like calling the multiple endpoints from the system API or multiple like and aggregating the data, and the experience API, like whatever fields we require, it is just exposing those fields to the client basically, depending on the channels basically, right? So that is all about like API led connectivity and like Mule 4.4, right? I want to show one last thing, async API. So I forget to show that. So recently MuleSoft has introduced one more feature, that is async API, that is similar to your RAML. So RAML is basically it's a API design specification for your REST APIs basically, right? So for your REST APIs where you have put, post, get, and all this kind of method basically. So MuleSoft has also introduced a feature called async API, that is for event driven architecture, where you can write your event specification basically using async API. Let me show that, and you can just publish those to Exchange and your developer portal. I will show that. Yeah, this is async API. So that is for events basically. You in events you may have a channel which publish and subscribe to the message. So you can define that channel here. So this is nothing. This is the queue name, which is queue or topic name, which is publishing the message, and the what kind of message it will publish, that has been defined. This is the trade result, again queue or topic name, which will subscribe to this kind of message. Here you can see the specification, right? So this, and even you can publish this to Exchange. Yeah, I can say publish to Exchange. So this is for events basically. So like you have a RAML for REST API. So you have async API for events basically. Okay, so you can go to Exchange. Right, and you can see it here. So you can see like so this is the message, and you can see this is like this particular event contain, or this particular async API contain two method, like a book trade, it's a queue or topic name which publish to message. Trade result is a queue or topic name which subscribe to this message. So that is how you can add. I like this is recently added. Yeah, so like yeah, I don't know like how many people start using this, but yeah, this is the recently added feature. Yeah. Okay, so Abhishek, I think I have done with my demonstration and everything. Okay,
Yes, sir.
I hope like you got a clear understanding of like API led connectivity architecture.